What up, YouTube? Schmidtward here, checking in. Project Diablo 2, Season 11, Prosperity. Here's a Rathma Tier 1 video with my hardcore Charger Paladin I've been working on lately. As most of you know, or maybe you don't, I'm an assassin simp. And I usually run my Rathmas on Blade Sentinel, but I think last season or maybe 2 seasons ago, Charger got really popular. I guess when they introduced the parry ability, the Holy Sword, I guess it's called. I had seen, I'm not even sure I ever seen a video, but Stoic sent me a file at the end of last season, and I just ran a quick one, and it just seemed extremely cracked. So I think when my assassins died, I think the clone assassin died to a Nova's Always Pierce Pillar bug, and then I kind of had to respec my Rathma assassin to like my mapper or maybe my cloner. I don't know. Shit hit the fan with the assassin, and I was like, fuck it. I guess I'm going to make a Charger Paladin because it seems broken and I'd like to try it. So I did. I had very mid/terrible gear on the Paladin for a long time, like a non-eth Doombringer and just pretty basic stuff, and Rathma Tier 0 still felt very free. I've since upgraded my gear. I bought a IAS slammed Ethereal Doombringer, that P-box for 4 holes, maybe about a month ago for like 15 high runes. Ever since I got that thing, it's just been a totally different ballpark. You can see the gear at the end or skip ahead, but I recently bought some more upgrades because I am working towards a Tier 2 attempt. I don't quite have all the pieces I need, so this was my first Tier 1 attempt. Honestly, Phase 1 is pretty easy. Just dodge the towers, do damage. If the golems, get to Mendeln, it's not the end of the world. Honestly, on Tier 0, the hardest phase is probably Phase 2, just because it's hard to dodge the bone spears when you're just holding down your charge button on Rathma. You hear the sound, and then you have to, click away. Anybody has any tips on how to more easily dodge the bone spears on the Charger, I would appreciate that. I was kind of scared coming into Phase 2 on Tier 1 just because the damage does get quite large. That being said, I was a little more careful with the Void Knight spawns than I am on Tier 0, and it went pretty well. You gotta watch out for the Skelly Fissures. They definitely do more damage. I think in an ideal world, I would have more max fire res, which just helps against those. The skeletons spawning outside the arena and not being killable. Many have called it a bug. I'm not sure if that's intended or not, but I don't think we've really heard anything from the devs on that. So I'm just going to go with it's not a bug and it's intended to make the fight harder, which, why not? Fights, it's definitely the hardest boss compared to Declone and Lucian. Just a lot of RNG in the damage, and sometimes Rathma sends a bunch of bone spears, sometimes he doesn't, sometimes a bunch of skeletons spawn, sometimes they don't. Sometimes the Void Knights spawn on your face, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you get desecrated a lot, sometimes you don't. There's just a lot of factors that you can't really plan for. So if you've seen my previous Rathma videos on the higher tiers, you'll know that I've never killed a Tier 2. I've geared up a few assassins in previous seasons to try, and at this point I'm just saying, hey, let's be a complete meta cuck and try the charger. It's got to be one of the stronger builds in here. It's very easy to play and very powerful, which, you know, two very good things, especially on hardcore. Yeah, that being said, yeah, phase 2 went pretty well. I'm probably the most scared about phase 3 on tier 1 or tier 2, just because the burst damage insane with Mendeln and Rathma both having their damage way upped. I think I have like a close call or two here. I don't quite remember. I remember one time where I was like, holy crap, that was a lot of burst. I think I got hit by like a sludge nova and got really low. I have not watched this since recording the audio, but we'll see it together. Yeah, the good thing about this phase is you can, attack Mendeln while Rathma is doing his mechanics, and the bone spears are much easier to dodge when you have like even just an extra half second. When you hear the sound, you can just, move your position on Mendeln and get out of the bone spear path, which is very hard to, or it's not very hard, but it's much harder to do on phase 2 since the bone spears do come out quite quickly. Even on my tier 0 attempts, I'm trying to refill from my inventory where I can to leave the potions on the ground, since when you want them on the ground to pick up in a pinch, you really want them there. So if you're just picking them up when you could be filling from your inventory, that's not ideal. I get fairly low there, nothing crazy. You kind of saw there, the tick damage on the poison was just kind of giga insane. I antidoted, like a second into it, but I got super low. There I get fairly low, but not too bad. Dodge the bone spear that was coming after that. I'm always trying to tell, like, oh, can I kill this skeleton, or is it, out of the arena? It's kind of pretty hard to tell. But yeah, when you can kill a skeleton, I'd highly recommend killing a skeleton. Got all these fissures down, which do a lot of damage. So yeah, honestly, on tier 0, I don't really focus on dodging the fissures, but that's something I'm going to have to try to get better at, because they do chunk a lot. Yeah, the gear for this kill, like I'm using water walks with like a life corrupt, just because I couldn't find anything better when I decided I wanted to try my tier 1. Ideally, you have like a max fire res slam, or even like a max cold, or even a poison. A max poison slam would let you drop the nature's piece, but getting 3 poison, 3 fire, and 3 cold is kind of big game in here. Just like the Bale Nova's cold, phase 1 there's cold. It's just nice to have those other resists as high as possible. Snow Clash is usually my go-to belt on an assassin, but with the Pally, I want a little more PLR, so I'm using like a 2 max PLR belt. It's pretty broken. You'll see it in the next, or in the gear overview that's coming up here in a moment. Taking a lot of damage here, but we're done through the Void Knights. I'm really just trying to dodge bone spears, dodge the mechanics, and zerk them down. But yeah, I mean, those fissures are nuts. Like, I don't know, I guess if there's 2 stacked on each other, the FHR would make it so you wouldn't take stack damage, but I'm not really sure how that works. Yeah, kill is good, felt good about it. Here's my gear. Here's that Doombringer I was talking about. Bought this. There's temp jewels in it. They're definitely not bad. You can look up my armory if you want, but there's 1 minus rec and then just 3 ED jewels. Here's a 29 strength Ral IAS cold res Andes. We've got a 2 max 75 PLR curse resistance desecrated all res life amulet, pretty pog. 3 Jod Gladbane. This is just a life slammed water walks, 85 total. Here's a kind of CNC nature's piece. Here's that belt, 28 strength, 91 life, 2 max, 2 relevant resists, and 25 PLR, which is kind of sick. This next ring I was using clean just because it was pretty good and I didn't want to brick it. Before the tier 1 attempt, I did slam it, got 6 all attributes. Sadly, after I already put my attributes in, so I'm losing a little life there. We've got block chance, drainers. I really need some IAS drainers. Here are my charms. I could definitely have 10 more vit on my Pally torch, which I definitely need to get. Just some random res to fix the res. And then we've got kind of our all res life charms I've just been accumulating all season. Just because, I do like to do the tier 2 bosses and those help. And when they're available for a reasonable price, I will buy them. We got Charge Max, we got Holy Sword Max, Might Maxed, Fanat Maxed, Vigor Max, and then 1 point in Res Lightning just for the souls before phase 1 and before phase 2. Here we are, we're overcapped for tier 1, so for tier 2 we'll need a little more res. The curse resistance on the amulet makes it so we only have to be 26 overcapped instead of 29, which isn't nothing. We're at the 48 FHR breakpoint. It feels pretty good. We're max IAS frames with Fanat. And yeah, we got some life leech, which is kind of nice for golems. Cold damage isn't super important just because the Void Knights only stay chilled for like a quarter of a second or something. So it's really not super helpful. But if you could get like some cold or poison damage and like some jewels or maybe on some charms, I'm sure it would not be a net neutral. It would be something better. But yeah, we're trying to gear up for tier 2. Just need a few more upgrades, get some better jewels in the Doombringer, and I'll feel good about that. So thanks for watching, and yeah, catch you in the next video. Hopefully it's not a rip of the Paladin. Stay safe out there.